Welcome to the Marketing Behind Rapid Growth, the podcast where we explore the strategies, decisions, and growth engines behind some of the world's most successful technology companies. Today we're talking about Dribbble. Picture this. It's 2024. You open X or maybe Reddit, and it feels like watching a funeral in real time. Designers, thousands of them, are writing obituaries for a platform they love. The comments are furious. The headlines practically write themselves. Dribbble killed itself. The company had just changed its terms of service. If a client found a designer on Dribbble, that deal now had to close on Dribbble. No more sliding into someone's DMs and taking the transaction elsewhere. The internet called it a betrayal. But here's the twist. While the internet was mourning, Dribble's internal dashboards were telling a completely different story. Retention barely moved. And the business? It didn't just survive. It accelerated sharply. So what happened? Were the critics wrong? Or were they simply the wrong audience to be listening to? That paradox is the story of Dribbble. It's a story about how a scrappy side project became a profitable lead generation powerhouse without ever taking $1 of venture capital. And it's a masterclass in something most companies get wrong, the difference between the users who make noise and the users who make money. Let's start at the beginning. Part 1. The T-shirt campaign. It's 2009. Dan Cederholm and Rich Thornett are neighbors in Salem, Massachusetts. They notice a gap. Designers have portfolio sites for their polished, finished work. But there's nowhere to share the messy stuff, the drafts, the works in progress, the behind the scenes. So they build Dribbble. Simple concept. Post small screenshots, they call them shots, of what you're working on. But the product wasn't the clever part. The go-to-market was. Before launch, Cederholm and Thornett did something almost nobody does anymore. They mailed T-shirts, about 100 of them. Each one branded, each one hand-addressed to a designer they personally admired, and each one containing a handwritten invite code. Think about the psychology here. This isn't a mass email blast. This is a physical object in your hands from people who know your work. It creates a sense of obligation. You feel seen. You want to try the thing. And it wasn't just marketing. It was supply-side seeding. By handpicking the first 100 users, they made sure the best designers in the world were the first people posting. Then they closed the door. Invite only. No open sign-ups. That scarcity did something powerful. Dribbble invites became currency. People traded them. People bragged about having one in job interviews. The platform manufactured its own mystique before it had proven anything at all. This is lesson 1, and it's worth sitting with. Constrained supply, done early and deliberately, doesn't just create hype, it protects quality. When demand eventually arrived, the work waiting for it was undeniable. Part 2. Paving the cow paths. Here's where it gets interesting from a product strategy standpoint. Dribbble was designed for sketches, rough ideas, works in progress. But that's not what users actually did. Designers started posting increasingly polished, finished work. The platform was drifting, organically, towards something else entirely. A place to showcase your best work and get discovered. Cederholm had a phrase for how the team responded to this. He called it paving the cow paths. Instead of fighting the behavior, they watched where people were already walking and built the paths there. They leaned into it. They added features like rebounds and playoffs, essentially gamifying design trends, letting people riff on each other's work, keeping the community engaged and competitive in a fun way. But the real signal came from an unexpected place. Large agencies started showing up. Not hobbyists, not students. Agencies with staff dedicated, full-time, to uploading work on Dribbble. These weren't people looking for camaraderie or feedback. They were running a top-of-funnel inbound marketing strategy. Dribbble had become, almost by accident, a client acquisition channel for design agencies. Once leadership recognized that, the response was smart. Build subscription products that help those agencies rank higher and signal availability to potential clients. In other words, monetize the behavior that was already happening, rather than trying to redirect it back to the platform's original vision. This is a pattern worth remembering. The market will tell you what it wants to use your product for. Your job isn't always to correct it. Sometimes it's to get out of the way and build the infrastructure that behavior needs. Part 3. Growth without the venture money. In 2017, Dribbble hit a fork in the road. The founders brought in the holding company Tiny, and Zach Onisko stepped in as CEO. Term sheets from Sand Hill Road were on the table. They walked away. That decision mattered enormously because venture money comes with a mandate: grow at all costs, usually through expensive paid acquisition. Instead, Dribbble bet on something slower, but more durable: organic growth. And it scaled to millions of users at a near zero customer acquisition cost. That strategy rested on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, product-led SEO. Every single shot a designer uploaded became an indexed page. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of designers, and you get a platform that dominates search results for design inspiration. Millions of organic visitors, essentially for free because the product itself was generating the content. Pillar 2, data-driven email. Here's a subtlety that's easy to miss. Dribbble had millions of users, but only a fraction of them were actually transacting at any given moment. Generic batch and blast email campaigns are useless in that scenario. You're either annoying the majority or missing the moment for the minority who are ready to act. So Dribbble wired its email tooling directly into its data warehouse. SQL-driven segmentation, real-time lifecycle campaigns, triggered off live product data. That's a level of marketing sophistication a lot of companies still haven't reached. Pillar 3, experiential brand building. Dribbble is, and always has been, a remote company. But they invested in real-world community anyway, meetups and their own conference called Hang Time, the kind of loyalty you simply cannot buy with a display ad. Together, these 3 pillars built something rare: a marketing engine almost entirely on own channels. Part 4, the paywall mistake. Now, with all that traffic, all that community goodwill, and a healthy subscription business, Dribbble was still leaving its biggest opportunity on the table: the transaction itself. They tried to fix that once, and got it wrong. In an early attempt to monetize demand, Dribbble put up a paywall, charging recruiters and clients up front just to search for and message designers. On paper, it seems reasonable. You're providing value, so charge for it. In practice, it strangled the platform. Adding cost and friction at the exact moment someone wanted to reach out throttled the flow of inbound leads. It was bad for liquidity, and liquidity is the entire point of a marketplace. A marketplace with friction on one side isn't a marketplace, it's a wall. Part 5, the controversial pivot. In 2024, Konstantin Anastasakis took over as CEO with a sharpened mandate. Dribbble wasn't just a community anymore. It was, at its core, a lead generation business, and marketing and product needed to align completely around maximizing high-intent lead flow. Step 1 was reversing the mistake. They killed the client paywall, made it free to search and contact designers. Lead volume surged immediately. Step 2 was capturing the value that was now flowing more freely. They introduced on-platform transactions. And then came the controversial part, the part that triggered the backlash we opened with. They updated the terms of service to ban off-platform deals entirely and instituted a revenue share on successful engagements. To be fair to the users who were upset, this was a real shift in the platform's identity. For years, Dribbble had been the cozy, community-first network. Now it was explicitly taking a cut of every deal it facilitated. But leadership didn't just tax the existing experience, they upgraded it. The Pro subscription, which had been mostly a vanity badge, became a genuine B2B marketing tool. They layered in AI-driven matching that drafted project briefs and actively steered high-intent clients toward pro designers. In other words, if you were going to pay a fee, you were also going to get routed real business. The value proposition scaled alongside the price. And that's why the backlash and the business results diverged so sharply. The people writing furious posts online tended to be nostalgic legacy users, mourning the platform's early culture, but the actual power users, the ones generating real economic value, were quietly staying, because the new system served them better. Proposal response times fell. Accepted project values rose. Gross merchandise value reportedly jumped several-fold in the months that followed. The loudest voices and the most valuable users turned out to be 2 different audiences entirely. What this means for operators. Let's pull out the through line, because this isn't just a Dribbble story, it's a playbook. First, manufactured exclusivity is a real marketing tool. That t-shirt campaign wasn't a gimmick. It was a deliberate mechanism for seeding quality and building prestige before scale. Second, Don't tax demand before it sees value. The paywall failure is the cautionary tale here. Friction on the demand side, especially early, throttles the entire funnel. Free and frictionless access is often what unlocks monetization further down the line. Third, align marketing with your data warehouse. The shift from generic email blasts to live SQL-driven segmentation is the difference between marketing that reacts to old data and marketing that operates on the current state of your business. And fourth, maybe the most important, follow utility, not nostalgia. When Dribbble forced transactions on platform, the noise was deafening. But the data told the truth. The users who mattered most weren't chasing a romanticized version of community. They were chasing outcomes. Conclusion: Dribble's growth wasn't luck and it wasn't timing. It was a patient, community-led marketing strategy that quietly aggregated the best design talent in the world, paired with leadership that was willing to make an unpopular call when the moment demanded it. The lesson isn't that community doesn't matter. It's that the best marketing doesn't stop at building awareness or goodwill. At its sharpest, marketing engineers liquidity. It gets the right supply and the right demand into the same room and gets out of the way. This was the marketing behind rapid growth. See you in the next episode.